Awesome. Good afternoon, Facebook Live. I am here for a lavish conversation with Dr. Rhonda M. Wood. I am your host, Tamika. And for lavish conversations, we're just discussing with inspiring people why existing is not enough. That's the whole premise of this programming. So, Dr. Wood, Dr. Rhonda, thank you for joining us, the beautiful, illustrious, accomplished, acclaimed. If you could tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, you are too kind. Well, first of all, thank you, Tamika, for having me as a guest on your show. I'm very honored. I'm happy to be here. I'm excited to be able to share some wisdom and some nuggets with your audience and your followers. So,
Thank you
as you
for
mentioned, I'm
coming.
Dr. Rhonda M. Wood, and it is an honorary doctorate, but it's part of my brand, so I'm just going to wear it. You
Yeah.
know.
And it fits well. It fits very well.
Thank you. So I actually spent 30 years, 30, in corporate America. I recently did a transition unconsciously to become an international mental health speaker, best-selling author, and also an advocate.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
my why is because my daughter was struggling with mental health, my teen daughter. So I was a corporate working woman trying to
Mhm.
be all I can be and climb that corporate ladder. And you know,
And
whether
being
you're,
very successful at it. You must admit, you have to give that. You weren't
thank
just in
you.
corporate America. You were accomplishing goals hand over foot, very
Yeah,
sought after.
absolutely. And that's what many of us do. You know, we don't just go to the 9 to 5 every day just to bring home the check. You know,
Right.
we want to be all that we can be. You know, and it
Right.
doesn't matter if you work in fast food. Then I hope you have plans to be the manager. I hope you have plans to own the franchise.
That's
You know what I
right.
mean? And
That's
so yeah,
right.
I'm in corporate America, and you know, I'm sure many parents can relate to this. But you know, when your loved one is hurting, when your baby is hurting, you're like, well, wait a minute now.
And in
And
this
so
day and
yeah,
age, it goes unnoticed so often because you are in corporate America and you're wrapped up in that existing. And when you start living, you start recognizing these little things like your child needing, more of your time or needing you to live in a different manner to really
right.
be there for her or
Right.
him,
So
whoever.
yeah, so for me it was, you know, I'm getting up every day at 5 o'clock. We're leaving out at 6 o'clock. I'm dropping her off at school at 7. I would make a 1 hour drive from
Hmm.
Montgomery County, Maryland to Washington, D.C. It was a 1 hour drive. I would park, I would get in the building, and about 3 or 4 days out of the week, my daughter would call me and say, I can't make it through the day. Sometimes it was within minutes of me getting into the office. Like, I don't even think I took my coat off good. And she
Right,
would tell
right.
me, I can't make it through the day. I'm having a moment. I feel like I'm gonna have a breakdown. I'm being triggered. My mental
Mhm.
health is not where it should be. I'm depressed. I'm anxious. I have anxiety. And
Right.
so I would go get her. There were times when I was like, can you try and make it through the day? Can you go to the nurse's office?
Mhm.
So we tried everything. So this wasn't a spoiled child who just didn't want to go to school. This was somebody who was like, I have trouble making it through the day,
Yeah.
to the school day. So
And I think something a
ultimately,
lot of us aren't really aware of as parents automatically is that most of our children over the last 20 years, if you had a child over the last 20 years or right before then, they grew up in a different world than you did. We didn't know about domestic terrorism and things like that. 20 years ago, literally, there was terrorism in our backyard. So
mhm,
the level of anxiety, although everybody acts like our kids are so soft and so coddled, you
mm,
didn't even fathom anything like that occurring on United States soil when you were growing up. So imagine them trying to live through the lives that we live with, peer pressure and all of those things, but at the
mhm.
same time having these additional worries that we never even thought of.
Not only that, Tamika, they didn't grow up the same way we did, but can we just talk about the last few years and what that's doing for our young people? Can we
Oh
just
my
talk about,
word.
I mean, growing up, I never had to worry about a pandemic. I got my chickenpox vaccine and we kept it moving. You know what I
Right,
mean?
exactly. You got your boosters. There wasn't even. How about even the controversy behind getting vaccinated or not? Like everything about this whole pandemic, this whole when were we ever grounded? Our
And
parents have never been punished and stuck in the house. Don't leave, you and the kids.
yeah, can you
And
imagine having to be socially isolated from not
yeah,
only your family, your friends, your
mhm,
norm, not being able to go to school, having to wear mask every day. There
right.
is that, that brought on symptoms of depression. That also
Mhm,
brought on symptoms of anxiety. When you realize the reason why you have to do all of these things is so you don't get sick, so you don't go to the hospital. We're looking at the news and social media and seeing some people were passing away. What does that do to our young people's minds?
right.
Look at how we have to deal with it as an adult, and then
Mhm,
imagine being several years younger and having to learn how to process all of
right.
that information. But
And then
yeah,
we had at the same time during this whole pandemic, we had the George Floyd situation, which triggered all of the past, stories and past experiences that you may have, individually, your parents may have. Even those moments of, I must admit, my daughter said something about writing a paper in school and how we used to live in Pennsylvania. And she spoke about how when we've been in these different school districts and they talk about Black history and how she feels like all eyes are on her as the Black student or as the Black representation. And when they
mm-hmm.
talk about Black history, it's not necessarily the Black accomplishments or even past that, even further back. It's not where we came from as far as where we derived from. It's from slavery on. But we didn't come from slavery. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's so limiting. And when you're as a child sitting there being described to everyone else, like, so she came from slavery. You know what I mean? Basically. And then you
Wow,
have the immature kids laughing and things like that. Like
right,
all of these different pressures that I feel
right,
like we, just don't even
right,
think about. It's
right.
crazy. So I'm very proud, I must say, even of your daughter for having the awareness to reach out instead of just sitting there and suffering in silence, which a lot of people, children and adults,
Right.
do. And that brings me back to why your life change is so important and the direction that you chose is so relevant in this day and age. I mean,
Yeah,
you that anyway
absolutely.
by nature. You've always been a mental health advocate though, before you started it by practice.
That's actually a segue into a very good point. So, a lot of people ask me, well, how did you get into this? Yes, I do have a why, but let me just go a little bit deeper for a moment, if I may, if that's okay with you,
Please
your
do.
followers. Okay. So, what a lot of people don't realize, since I know your platform is a lot about not just existing, right? A lot of people don't realize that most of us have gone through some challenges, some difficulties, some struggles,
Yeah.
right? We have gone through things. We do not have it easy every day of our lives. We just don't. We
Right.
have had to go through adversity, but a lot of people don't realize how important adversity is to
Mm.
your growth. Adversity is important. The things that happen to you, first of all, let me say this: we are here on purpose, with purpose, for purpose. Let me start there.
Yes. Say that again.
We are here on purpose, with purpose, for purpose. In other words, our lives are very intentional. Our creator was very intentional when he made us. We were made with purpose.
Yes.
So that's number one. So a lot of people think, oh, my life is so hard. Why is everything bad happen to me? Why is this happening to me? Nothing ever goes right. And when you have that mentality and that attitude, then of course, then nothing's going to go right. You are going to attract more of that, right?
Right.
But one of the things that I really want to drive home is that the things that have happened to, first of all, you do not have to be defined by past experiences or current circumstances. So,
Yeah.
for example, if you say, well, I want to be a rocket scientist. Okay, be a rocket scientist. Oh, well, I can't because, X, Y, and Z. No, you can. Don't
Hmm.
be defined by past experiences or current circumstances. Don't let money, don't let past mistakes, past problems, childhood trauma,
Right.
family dysfunction, all of those are excuses. Oh, I didn't finish school. Okay, there's a lot of examples in the world, Mark Zuckerberg,
Mhm.
etc. There's a lot of examples in the Bible, even, of
Right.
God taking ordinary people and doing extraordinary things. If you think about, God doesn't call the qualified. He qualifies the called, meaning he could have said, I want to do something great and I want to be able to put it in
What's
the
the
Bible.
word?
Let me call people who have PhDs. No, he called ordinary people to do extraordinary things because that's how he shows his majesty. Even when Jesus himself walked the earth, he didn't walk the earth in a, he was an
Golden
ordinary,
down.
he came in
Yes,
on a donkey of all.
right.
know?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
And so
On
I
the,
just want to drive home the point that the things that have happened to you are the breadcrumbs that create the path to your greatness. Your greater is because of the lesser things that have happened. So for me, I'm thinking, oh, well, my plan and my purpose is to be a CEO of a Fortune 500 company. Thank you very much.
and you were on your way.
And I was on my way, and God said, well, you know what? I have other plans. Now, it's not that those 30 years of corporate America were useless. God uses everything. He uses every single experience. Let me be clear. He uses the good and the bad. He uses the ups and the downs. He uses the laughter and the tears. So never feel like there was any part of your life. I hear people say, oh, I wasted 5 years in this relationship. No, you learned a lot from 5
Yeah.
years
And
in
if
a
you didn't learn, then you're not paying attention.
exact. There's always a lesson. There's
Yeah.
always a lesson. If you think about it long enough, I didn't waste 30 years in corporate America.
Right.
I would have been, oh, you didn't waste the time in college, quote unquote. You weren't studying the wrong subject matter.
Right.
God doesn't waste anything. You spent time in prison. Okay, guys, like I'm gonna use that. You've been stripping on the pole. You've been a stripper. Okay, we gonna use that. See, God uses everything. Every part of our lives is intentional. Have we gone down some wrong paths that were not in alignment to our creator's plan? Absolutely. But he still uses those things to do great things.
I like that. Somebody in the chat said, if you're not learning, you're growing. And my constant thing is, if you're not growing, you might as well be dying, right? Because if we're not evolving constantly, then we would still be these, archaic creatures walking around with, our, loincloth and that's it. And, oh no, what is this, fire? Those types of things. So I definitely, evolution is necessary and that growth is necessary. And healing as you're going through that journey is necessary. I think also about what you said about that whole purpose in the things that occur in your life and to you. I think that grace, that forgiveness, not only to yourself for, being in whatever circumstance you may feel you had control over or didn't have control over, but even those outside of you who I'm sure were not aiming to, give you any ill will or anything,
Right.
So I think that's amazing. So when you felt that change, though, when you felt your why, how'd you kick yourself into action?
So let me just say this. When I was going through it, obviously I wasn't like, oh, maybe something good is going to come out of this. I mean, my daughter was struggling with anxiety and depression almost every day. It didn't seem like it was getting better. There were days when she said she didn't want to be here anymore. I was like, oh my God. There were times when I was fearful that she was going to do something in the middle of the night. I got no sleep. I got no rest. I had no comfort. And a lot of people do not have the awareness or the knowledge or the compassion to understand mental health symptoms. So that was also a problem. So you tell a family member, oh, my daughter's, struggling with mental health and I had to take her to the hospital. They're like, it's a tricky topic. Some people make it spiritual, she must not be close to Jesus.
Yeah.
Some people make it they want up, they're like, it must be your parenting. You know what I mean? There were times that I was like, well, dang, I thought I was a pretty good mom. I thought I was doing pretty good. I don't know if I would have won the Mom of the Year award, but I thought I was doing pretty good.
At least if somebody's running, at least, definitely not in the upper line, But things happen though, but that happens in the best of situations. I really like that you're sharing too about how even in corporate America, even being successful and all of that doesn't stop problems from coming. It doesn't stop life from lifing, and life be lifing up in here. Okay? I'm
Yes,
just gonna
honey.
say.
Yes.
It's funny you mentioned the purpose driven life too, because that's something that my mom, when I was a teenager, I think, gave me a book or something about a
Wow.
purpose driven life, and that's
Hmm.
like been an undercurrent. You know what I mean in my world, honestly, because I've always been a very big proponent of living is something that happens. Us happening to life though is something that's amazing. Oh, a question from one of our users: what brings you purpose and joy that aligns with your coexistence of living? Because many
Mm.
people just struggle to understand their purpose. What brings you that purpose and joy?
Right. So one of the things that I mentioned earlier is, well, I thought my purpose was to be this, um, making multi six figures, running a business, doing great things. But
Right.
to truly align with your purpose, one of the things that you have to do is say, okay, well, what is it that I'm passionate about? What are the things that I like? A lot of people need to connect with that. And
Right.
I will say this, a lot of people are like, well, there are check boxes in our life, whether you're in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, your 60s. A lot of times we allow other people to dictate how our lives are lived. What I mean by that is, oh, I'm in my 20s, so I should be doing this. I'm in
Mm-hmm.
my 30s, so I should have accomplished this. I should be married. I should have one kid. I should be making this much. I should be living in this type of house. I should have this many children. I should be, uh, driving this type of car. I should be doing these things. But is that what you really want, or is that just what society says we should have or we should do? So I
Yeah.
think a big part of it is getting in touch and in contact with what is it that you like? What are
Right.
your desires? So
What
for
gets you out of
me,
the bed makes you happy.
right. So for me, I felt like I had lived my life for other people for so long. I realized that was a big part of my unhappiness. One day I literally woke up and I said, you know what? I decided to choose me. I'm just going to choose me. I'm going to be unapologetic about choosing me and not do it in a selfish way, right? It wasn't about me being selfish and not doing anything for anybody else, but it
Right.
just meant I need to make me the priority. I need to prioritize me because I feel like if I can't make me the priority and pour, I did a post not that long ago, and I had a coffee cup on my Instagram and my Facebook and my social media, and I talked about how I needed to make sure my cup was full. That was the whole point of the. And I think I was in Paris at the time, but I was holding a cup of latte, and it was in the whole point of the post was just about choosing me. So when we talk about purpose and alignment, a big part of that starts with, well, what is it that you like? And what is it that you want? And
Right.
the closer you get to connecting to you and doing the things that set your soul on fire, you will understand how you will come into alignment with the reason you were created in the first place. And when I think about the fact that I want it to be, you have to understand that your life leaves breadcrumbs. I know we talked about this a little bit before, but like I said, nothing in your life is ever wasted. So you probably heard the phrase success leaves clues, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Everything that's happened in our lives have left breadcrumbs. So for me, the things that I learned in corporate America, those experiences, being professional and doing trainings and speeches and pouring into people, those skills are the things that I use now as a mental health speaker. Well, okay, I did that in corporate America. Writing mental health articles, writing, contributing chapters about mental health in other
Mm-hmm.
books, and the advocacy work and mentoring people. Those are skills that I use in my coach. So the success was there.
Right.
The reason why I wanted to be a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, I was like, well, that's a high level of success. Well, I can still achieve a high level of success and go even farther when I'm doing it with intention,
How about
if I'm doing it with my purpose in mind.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is when you are in alignment with your purpose, that is what brings you joy. When you will start to see, man, things will just start to unfold, doors will start to open up. You know, it's almost like a bulb is turned
Turned
on.
on. Yeah, and it
A
creates
lot of
a series of lights. You know, you ever seen a pathway just get lit up automatically? It's like that type of situation. You like it. We have a song at our church. It only takes a spark to get a fire going.
Ooh, I love that.
But it's
And
so
yeah,
true.
and that's true. And yeah, and it is about, when you wake up in the morning, do you spring out of bed to do, what is it that sets your soul on fire? I love what I do so much that when I wake up in the morning, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't wait. Like what's the next opportunity? What's the next thing? Who am I pouring in today? Who is getting value today? And
Right.
again, it starts with me and figuring it out. Well, what are my passions? And it's not about, a lot of people think, well, you know what, purpose and happiness and joy, a lot of
Mhm.
people think it's about a lot of money or it's about material things. It's
Right.
it, it's not influenced by external measures, money, power, status, that title. I wanted the title and I
Right.
wanted the big office and I wanted the big bank account, but it's also me working in my unique lane of genius. It's me being able to make a positive impact in the life of others. It's
Right.
about me living with authenticity. When you're living and doing what other people want, that's not authentic.
That is
Me
the truth.
living with authenticity, me committing to only the things that sets my soul on fire and challenges me to be the best that I can be at sharing my gifts so that I leave a legacy that
Mhm.
inspire future generations for years to come. That is me living out my purpose. That is what brings me joy. I hope I answered your question.
You did definitely. Well, it wasn't my question. No, I forgot it was a
Oh,
trick.
and yeah, the
But
question.
yes,
And
that
let
was
me let me add this part too. It's about choosing the present over the
yeah.
past. It's about choosing faith
Yeah.
over fear. It's about choosing grace over
Mhm.
grind. It's about choosing progress over perfection. And it's about choosing peace and even prayer over panic, because a lot of times we panic. Oh my god, I'm not where I want to be.
Natural
A lot
reaction.
of times we're like, oh, I gotta wait till this is all right and everything is perfect. Sometimes people think, oh, I just gotta grind. And it's about grace, it's
Yeah.
about faith, it's
Yeah.
about progress, and it's about having peace. That's when you know you have that inner joy, and that's when you know you're living in your purpose.
Yes, indeed. You know, another
Mhm.
person, Dubai, actually, who I spoke with last week, I want to say, was saying a very good point. Just start with what makes you happy. What
Mhm.
makes you happy to
Start
do
where
it
you
and do
are.
it.
Start
And
where you are.
and she's a very literal person. Like she's the person that you'll look outside and she'll just be hugging a tree. Like if
Mhm.
that's what brings you happiness, hug the
Mhm.
tree. Hug on. You know what
Yes,
I mean?
yes, yes.
Wait, speaking of which,
And then
somebody
not worry
said
about who looking at you hugging the tree.
right. Wait, somebody said my problem is that I don't panic enough, finding the balance and worrying where it's needed. That's true. I mean, well, you have to operate as needed, operate with a to-do list, check things off as they're needed to be done. But you don't want to operate in panic. A sense of panic never is a
It's not
calm mind,
productive,
is not an aware mind. It's not a stable space to create
honey. It
or
is. It is
feel.
not productive. I've been there. I can tell you. I got the gray
Exactly.
hair under this hat to prove it too.
Wait, so where are you currently? Let us know. I know you were in Paris when I just spoke to you. Where were you? You were there like last week, right?
Okay, so let me see. So this is now October. So in the last 2 weeks, almost 3 weeks, I actually landed in London. I went to have brunch with friends. I got on the Eurostar train and went from London, England to Paris, France for 3 days. I came
Mhm.
back to London. I've done live. If people follow me on social media, y'all see this journey. So I've actually done lives on TikToks where I've actually posted. I'm actually in Dover, which is in a town called Kent. So I'm along the Dover Marina. I walk along the beach in the mornings. I usually do a 1 hour walk along the beach. Um, and water is my thing. You got to find out that thing that brings you joy. I
Yeah.
feel close to God and very at peace, and in my zone. My creativity juices get flowing when I'm near water. But
Mhm.
I'm actually the Dover Marina has something called it's called the Dover Strait. And everybody knows a strait is a body of, it connects two pieces of land between a body of water. So the
Right.
Dover Strait is the narrowest part of the English Channel. I literally can look out the window of this
Uh-huh.
front room and I'm looking at the freaking English Channel. Okay, I'm looking at the English Channel.
That's
On the other side of the English Channel, literally only 20 miles away, 22 maybe, 20 or
wow.
22 miles away, is France. Is France, folks. France.
That's so
Right.
awesome. Oh my goodness.
And so right now I'm back in London, but yesterday, y'all not gonna believe this. Yesterday I was in 3 countries. 3 countries in one day.
One day.
So I got up at 6 a.m. I left out at 7 a.m. because I had to board a ferry. So me and two friends, we literally got in a car and we I'm still can't believe this. We actually freaking drove on the boat. And we got out the car and we went up to the club level
Mhm.
and we had breakfast. We had scrambled eggs with smoked salmon. And I had a glass of champagne. I'm still sitting there like I can't believe I can't first of all, I can't believe I just drove on a boat. Like the car is
Right.
still but
Right.
we sailed and it wasn't even a long sail, like at 45 minutes, an hour, maybe a little over an hour. It was about an hour. And we're in Calais, France. So I went from Dover,
Mhm.
England, to
Yeah.
Calais, France. And then we we get off the boat, you get back in the car, you drive the car. I'm still like in awe about that. We drive off the boat, we drive from France to Belgium. So in
Oh
one day,
gosh.
I went from England to France to
So Belgium.
Belgium, and then I did it in reverse and came back home. I was
That
like,
is
okay,
so
let,
cool.
now, I've been in 3 states in one day. I've done
Right.
Maryland, DC, Virginia, maybe a little New York, maybe some Delaware, some Pennsylvania. So, but folks, I was in never in my way. That's why I say you talk about
Your
being in
wildest
alignment
dreams.
with your purpose. And
That
can I
was
let me just
definitely,
this is
yeah.
the part y'all not going to believe. This is the part y'all not going to believe. Now lean in. I want y'all to lean in. Lean in. Y'all leaning? Y'all leaning? I don't even have I'm like not working right now. Like I've been on leave for 5.5 years. I was on family medical leave, and you know this as an HR person. I was
Yeah.
on family medical leave, right?
Yes.
Here's one of the things that I learned. Now I'm going to break this down. I am going to break this down so it will, as they said in Love Jones, I'm going to break this down so it can forever and consistently stay broken. Okay. So, 2 things. One is when God opens a door, you walk through it.
Yeah.
Here's the key: when God opens the door, you walk through it. Make sure that door was opened by God. When God opens the door, you walk through it. You don't sit there and look at it and question it and say, well, it's not tall enough. It's not wide enough. It's not the.
Mhm.
When God opens the door, you walk through it. When you walk through it, walk in obedience. When God opens the door, you walk
Mhm.
in obedience. Now, God sometimes is going to challenge our faith, right?
Yes.
He doesn't. Here's what we like. Here's how I used to like things. And I think a lot of people can relate to this. What typically happens is we have a calling. God is calling us to do something. Well, I'm not doing that. That's not right. Or we want all the details
Mhm.
before we
Before we
make the
start.
move. So God will say, hey, for example, hey, I need you to do this. And you're like, well, what's going to happen if I do that? But see,
Right.
stepping out in faith means I don't know what's on the other side. I don't know what's on the horizon.
Yeah.
So when God calls us to do something, you do the what and let him take care of the how. You
Yeah.
do the what and he will take care of the details. And promise you, I promise you, you might feel, I mean, look at Peter in the boat. God said, hey, come.
Yes.
And Peter started saying, but, and questioning things. And I just need you to step out on faith.
Yeah.
So sometimes to get to our next level, to get to our next season. Now, again, I didn't wake up one day after
Mhm.
wanting to be a CEO of a Fortune 500 company. I didn't wake up one day and say, you know what? I think I'd rather be an international mental health speaker. I think I'd rather just speak on, share, just share my dirty laundry about having depression and anxiety and my daughter being suicidal and me up. I remember my therapist told me, you are this close to having a nervous breakdown. He told me that because I'm trying to keep her alive and I'm still trying to work this demanding job at the law firm. He was like, you're about to have a breakdown. That was a wake-up call for me. Because Tamika, breakdown in me, that don't go with my outfit.
It doesn't.
Girl, and not only did it not go in my outfit, like realistically, that didn't go with God's plan for me. So
it doesn't match you, I must admit.
So, sometimes we pray for things. Sometimes we're like, God, I'm going to answer the call. And then we scared to pick up the phone because God's like, okay, well, here's the door. Here's the door of opportunity for you. We pray for opportunities. We pray for things. And then we're afraid to take that next step. Now, God clearly told me, Rhonda, step away. I need you to step away from corporate America. It didn't make sense to me. I kept feeling and hearing the Spirit tell me, I need you to step away. I'm like, well, this makes no sense. I just started this job. Why would I step away? That's embarrassing. God said, I need you to trust me. And then I'm still questioning, well, how am I going to pay my bills?
Right.
What about the benefits? See, I needed God to give me the blueprint of what all of this was. And he's like, no, you don't get that.
Right.
I'm not going to lay this out for you. That's not how God works.
Right.
We do the what and we allow him to do that. And that's how he shows his majesty. That's how he shows his awesomeness. That's how we see God's glory. That's how we trust more. God will literally illuminate the step right in front of us. He's not going to show you the entire path. You step out on one, you might get two steps. You might get two steps illuminated in front of you. He's not going to
get excited when you see those two steps, actually.
So, yes, trust and faith in God is so needed.
Did you just see that in the chat too? Somebody just said we have to trust and have faith.
I did. And the faith without deeds is dead. I wish I saw the names of the people saying this because I love to address people by their names. But, God made it very clear. I need you to step away from work. He made that very clear. I'm about to have a breakdown. So God made it very clear what I needed to do. But had I not obeyed that calling, I wouldn't be where I am today. I'm telling you. And God just kept giving me instruction that in my mind made no sense. It didn't go with where I thought I was trying to go. So the more that I got into alignment with what I was being called to do rather than what I wanted to do, that's when things really started to happen. That's when I realized, okay, instead of helping law firms win, I'm going to help people win. I'm going to help them connect with their purpose so that they can be the best versions of them.
How about
my daughter is going to be okay because I stopped trying to do it in my own strength when I prayed and relinquished her to God. And God said, I need you to trust me with her. This is a part of the plan. If you allow me to work with her and to work with you, you will see the great thing that I have in store for you. So I was on family medical leave, which pays. I think family medical leave is in DC 12 weeks, 100%.
Yeah.
That was exhausted. And then I had to go on short-term disability because I'm about to have a breakdown, right?
Which is only 6% of your income.
There you go.
Everybody doesn't know about short-term disability.
Yes, baby. So I went from short-term to long-term, 60%. And because I never thought in a million years that I would go on disability, I actually did it where they didn't take taxes out. So I'm literally getting not 60%, but because I had to pay tax, I'm getting 50% of my salary. I had to go from living on 100% of my salary to God's like, I need you to trust me. Okay, God, you understand I'm living on half of my salary. We did. He's like, I need you to trust me. Then I started doing something. I'm like, okay, God, I see. Okay. He's like, I'm ready to take you to your next season. Now we're going to stop the benefit. Trust me. Trust. Still need to trust.
Right on time, right? Yeah, I think that's right up there with me saying, hey, I'm gonna live in my purpose. Oh, wait.
I don't want to live broke. I don't want to live broke in my purpose, guys. Did I miss that part? I don't want to be broken and purposeful.
Right. I don't want to be broke and purposeful, right?
I have not had any income coming in since the beginning of this year. And yet I was in 3
You were in
continents.
3 countries yesterday.
3.
I'm just saying that
3.
this definitely is. See, and for a perfect example, in case you don't know, so me wanting to do this show, for instance, I talked about this show with a few people. It popped into my head. I talked about it, and I said, you know what? I'm just going to start doing it. We actually started on Instagram, and when we went to do our first show, we couldn't get any sound. So my cousin,
Wow.
Veronica Shepherd, said, why don't you try StreamYard? So I tried this app,
Wow.
and we've been streaming through there, and we've been going on Facebook and just,
Wow.
posting it at other places. But the
Wow.
fact of the matter is, if I didn't go ahead and step out and just start doing it, then all these messages that all of you inspiring people that I speak with, like all of the gems that you just dropped today, even, not just the people that are present in the current, chat, but people that are going to catch the playback, people who may share this video. You never know.
Media never sleeps. I learned that. Media never sleeps.
Exactly.
So for example, where you are, it's 12:41. Where I am, it's 5:41 p.m. In France, it's 1 hour ahead. So the farther you go out, it's an additional hour. So it's in the middle of the night somewhere. So people are going to wake up in the middle of the night or in the morning and watch this. Some people are watching it live now. Some people will come home from work or come home from getting their hallelujah on and watch it. So media never sleeps. Exactly. So that's why I love, a lot of people only saw a lot of the negative that came out of the pandemic. A lot of good came out of that too. Before the pandemic, I was doing everything in person and I was only doing it locally. See, this is what happens when you walk in your purpose, people. Walk in your purpose. When you walk in your purpose, I'm telling you, things will start to align. Them steps, God will start putting down more and more steps. And so prior to the pandemic, I was doing in-person local speaking events. During the pandemic, we started doing a lot of stuff virtually, which means you were able to reach more people on a broader scale. So not just people in Maryland, for example, I'm able to reach people in Nigeria, Africa, and in Australia, and in Canada, and in London, and in France, and in Belgium. I make friends with. I'm gonna be with the person hugging the tree.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Truly, like, that's living your life. This the action. It's an action statement. It's an action motive. It's an action purpose.
Right. And so your platform, which talks about not just existing, which is so easy to do. It's so easy just to get up and go to a 9 to 5. It's so easy just to be like, but I just want to be comfortable. But I just want to be able to pay my bills. But I just want to be married. But I just want to be happy. But I just want this and I just want that.
Right.
But that was never, hear me clearly, that was never the plan for your life. We were never created just to exist. God wasn't bored and said, I just want to make a bunch of people to just kind of just feel the earth and just each one of us, regardless of past experiences or current circumstances, every single person was created on purpose, with purpose, for purpose. And everybody's assignment and purpose is different. So, for example, I might have been speaking for 2 years. Someone after me can't compare themselves to me. You can't say, well, I want that life. First of all, that's insulting to God, because God has created every single person. There are talents and gifts and abilities and strengths and skills and things that each of us can do with our hands tied behind our back, blindfolded. We do it in a way that nobody can copy, covet, chase, or compete. We don't have to do those things.
Yes, indeed.
We just have to be in our own unique lane of brilliance and do the thing that we were created to do. The problem is a lot of people have not connected to what that is. I have connected with my purpose.
Yes.
And here's the thing. Some people connect with their purpose. My daughter's connected with her purpose, and she'll be 21 on her next birthday. I'll be 50 on my next birthday. I'll be 50 in December. So y'all send me a look. Make sure y'all post now. Post December 21st.
Yeah.
1221. I'll be the big 50. And so it doesn't matter where you are in life right now.
And
What
speaking about
matters
not looking
is
like
that
what you've been through, by the way.
what matters is that you die empty. Don't
Mhm.
people are, I've heard what's his name? Les Brown says
Yeah.
that the graveyard is the richest place in the world because that's where all people's, your hopes, all of that stuff, it dies with you. Some people even say this is consistent with, he's even said this. He said this when I went to see him get hooded for his honorary doctorate.
Hmm.
He said some people stop living at 25, but they
Yeah.
don't die till 95. What does that mean?
What
They
were they
stopped
doing?
they stopped living a long
Right.
time ago. They stopped living emotionally. They stopped living spiritually. They stopped
Right.
living mentally, even though they may have died physically years later because
Right.
they never stepped into their purpose.
And when
They
you stop, that means that you stop giving as well. When you stop
because
living,
you
you
have no
stop giving.
purpose. What do
Exactly.
you have to give? You haven't been in touch with your gifts.
Yes. And
Each
all
of
of us
us
are
has
tied
gifts.
together.
Yeah, each of us have gifts that God gave each of us certain abilities and skills that were uniquely designed, engraved, created just for us.
Yeah.
Just for us. Nobody, let me say this. There are a lot of speakers. There are a lot of speakers in the world. There are a lot of
Mhm.
writers in the world. There are a lot of, for example, singers in the world. There are a lot of basketball players. But we can say, hey, there, these few people are my favorite basketball players. They don't compete against each other. Like
Right.
Alicia Keys isn't like, I wonder what Mariah Carey doing. I don't
Right.
think we can sing no more
Right.
because we don't need to do that. There can be more than one, but there are things that Tamika does that Rhonda can't do. It's,
Right.
it's things
Exactly.
that she does, and she does it so well. Man, Maya Angelou, I love quotes, by the way. Maya Angelou says, find that thing, honey, and do it in a way that people can't take their eyes off of you.
I love
That's
that.
living in your purpose.
That
You
is
got to
living in your
connect to that.
purpose.
You got to connect to that. We weren't created to just exist. We just weren't. We were created to, yes, we are going to go through things. So adversity is the key to growth. If you
Right.
think about adversity as a seed, those seeds of adversity, they need to do their work. They have to be watered, they have to be nurtured. And from our adversities, from the horrible, difficult, challenging things that have happened to us, whether it's childhood trauma or toxic relationships,
Yeah.
divorce, death. Like
Loss.
I lost
Everything.
both of my parents when I was young. I was a victim
Yeah.
of emotional abuse and sexual abuse. I was sexually molested I've gone through some horrible things.
Hmm.
But I can't say, oh, because these things happened, or because I don't have any money, or because the enemy will make you believe that. See, the
Yeah.
enemy made me believe that because my benefit was cut off, that means I had to step away from my purpose. God never takes his people backwards. He
Right.
does. If you look at the examples in the Bible, he was always pushing them forward, even when they didn't realize it. God is always pushing us forward, even when it doesn't feel like it.
Right.
Because those seeds of adversity, they create perseverance, they create tenacity, they create resistance, they create
Hmm.
strength. And those are the things that we need to grow. And those are the things that are preparing us for something greater,
For
our
our greater good.
greater. My best years are still in front of me. I don't care
Hmm.
what happened in the past. I don't even need to think about it. All I know is that the things that have happened in the past, I'm actually to the point where I have let them go. And I have a quote on my website. My new website hasn't launched yet, but I have a quote on my website that says, be grateful for where we have been. Be grateful.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for things that have happened because they have made me the person that I am today. Be
Right.
grateful for where you've been. Be happy about where you are and be excited about where you're going. Because in all three phases, God is preparing you for the greater.
Right. How about that?
Yes,
That
how
was beautiful, Rhonda. Can you tell us about your book first off? I know you have a book out and I know you have a new one coming out too. but you already have one that's out currently, right? I'd like people to know about it so they can check it out. And where can they find out more information about you? Of course, I have you linked on my page, but just tell them for the people listening.
Sure. Okay. So let me see. I have to, girl, it's bad when you gotta, when you gotta look up your stuff. So let me just say, so this year I will have 5 books. My first 4 books are anthologies. My very last book, this is the 30th year of my mother passing away and me raising my younger siblings when I was 18 years old.
Yeah.
And so my book is coming out the end of this year. It's called Truth, Traumas, and Triumphs. And it's about some stepping in some hard truths, honey, and accepting them hard truths, standing in your truth, talking about them traumas, healing from them traumas, and being able to experience your triumphs, being able to step into your purpose. So my first book was with legendary motivational speaker Les Brown, and that's called Unleash Your Undeniable Impact. That's on if you go to my link tree, you'll see it there. My second book is called Hope Renewed, which is transformational messages of hope and healing. That's on Amazon. The third book, which just came out, is called Passion, Purpose, and Peace, which we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Getting in touch with your passions, connecting with your purpose so that you have inner peace. A book that's coming out shortly is called Daddy's Girl, and it's about women who are successful, who have lost their fathers, and how they use those examples for their healing, and they're still doing great things in the world. And like I said, my 5th book will be the book that'll be out before the end of this year, Truth, Traumas, and Triumphs. All of those things are on my you can go if you want in all of my social media. I have a bio that has my link tree with the link to the books.
Do you have a final word for our viewers about what they should do or with regards to existing as opposed to getting out here and living? What do you feel like is on your spirit that you want to leave with them?
So I want to expand a little bit more about what I said earlier about we weren't created to just exist. Mm-hmm. We're here. We were created with purpose, for purpose. We were created on purpose, with purpose, and for purpose. So I want people to be able to digest that. We weren't created to just exist. God had a purpose and intention for each of us. And so, like I said, the things that we have experienced and gone through were some, even with the mistakes, even with the detours, even with the diversions, even with the disasters. God uses all of those things, and there is nothing we can do or that anyone else can do. We are not so powerful that we can mess up so much, or someone else can do something that's so bad that God's like, give me my purpose back. I knew you.
Right. How about that?
So there's nothing that we can do that will deter or distract us where God will remove the purpose. The purpose stays with us. Like I said earlier, if we've done something horrible, if we've gone to prison, if we, end up in a role, we end up with 9 kids, we're not married, none of those, it doesn't matter.
Right.
You are born with your purpose. It stays with you your entire life. Yeah. And you will experience the most amount of joy and peace and passion when you align with that. And if there's any of your viewers who need support with that, y'all better connect with me, Dr. Rhonda M. Wood, on all social media platforms. I have 10 social media platforms. I have 10.
What are they?
Let me see if I can get them. Facebook, Instagram,
yes,
Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, Snapchat, TikTok, Pinterest, Clubhouse, WhatsApp.
Awesome. So you can find Dr. Rhonda M. Wood anywhere, as you see.
Mm-hmm. I hope you just put it in Google. Put it in Google. Put Rhonda M. Wood or Dr. Rhonda M. Wood.
Googler.
Mm-hmm. Google.
So I really appreciate you joining us. I really appreciate you all tuning in for this conversation. I did want to read, someone said, if the lids that society creates to cover up our lights worked, how would the greatness shine through? I think that was a word right there.
Wow, that is awesome.
Always. Yes, I love that. And I just want to thank you all for joining us. Thank you, everybody viewing in the playback. Make sure that you check out Dr. Rhonda M. Wood. Make sure you tune in for our future lavish conversations about why existing is not enough. Make sure you get
Not
out
enough.
there and live. Make your
Yes.
self-care a requirement today because you are not an option. Check out our accoutrements for self-care on Shop Lavish Bars. And we
Oh,
will see you
okay.
for our next lavish conversation. Thank you again so
Awesome.
much. I appreciate you
Awesome.
joining us. I
Thank
know
you for
it's
the
late.
invitation. Thank you for the invitation. All right,
Thank
bye,
you.
guys.
Bye-bye. Whoops, sorry.